Hello everybody, how are you doing? Good, I hope. So, I'll be upfront, I was not initially planning on doing another wishlist video so soon after the last one. I was actually aiming to make it one of my November videos to help fill the gap between whenever the open beta for Marvel Rivals comes out, and, Rivals full release. However, the reception on the last video has been insane. Not only did it skyrocket me into YouTube partner status, it is also now my third most watched video. They even beat the first wishlist video by a lot. In fact, as of writing this video, we are 69 subs away from hitting the 1K goal. And because we're so close, I decided to do a community poll to see what kind of video you'd all like to see from me next. And well, it was another Rivals wishlist. So because we're on the cusp of hitting the goal, and because the last one did so well, I decided why not, we'll do one more. I probably have enough material to do one more wishlist after this or right before the game drops, but other than that, I don't know how many more decent picks I can pull before I get, completely unreasonable with them. Get some real obscure characters. Anyway, much like last time, I'll be going over the characters I'd like to see, a rough idea of how they'd play, and what class type I think they'd be. Oh, also, a heads up, the spooky season might have influenced these picks a bit, so, if you notice a lot more villains than heroes again, yeah, that's why. Oh, and there's obviously some mutants, because y'all know already, I love me some mutants. Anyway, let's stop wasting time and get into my third round of characters for Marvel Rivals. Alright, I'll be 100% honest with you guys here. He's on here mainly because I thought it would be funny if he mirrored Wolverine's place on the last wishlist video, and because he makes for a good thumbnail. Jokes aside though, my thoughts on Deadpool are almost perfectly mirror my thoughts with Wolverine, where I'm shocked he hasn't already been announced for Rivals. Come on, it's Deadpool. He's one of the most popular Marvel characters of all time. We all know he's getting in at some point. I'm just shocked he wasn't in the first round of reveals. It would have been great cross-promotion for Deadpool and Wolverine, but, like I said, he's more than likely getting in eventually, so. Anyway, for a possible kit, I was actually envisioning something different from what I think most people would do for Deadpool. I see a lot of suggestions be that he could kind of be the Rivals version of Genji from Overwatch, but I honestly think he should be the Rivals version of Junkrat. He'd be DPS, and for his main weapon, it could just be his pistols or maybe swords. And you could probably steal Genji's sword dash for a mobility move, but other than that, I'd make his entire kit explosive reliant. Mainly because the idea of Deadpool being the character with the ability to rocket jump is hysterical to me, and I can't move past it. I even have an ultimate idea, and it may or may not just be a ripoff of Junkrat's ultimate from Overwatch, but hear me out. Give him a comedically large bomb that he'd carry around for several seconds, and once detonated, he blows up the enemy team and himself, but only for him to regenerate and get back up a few seconds after. Also, little side note before we move on to the next character, when he eventually gets in, I sincerely hope Nolan North is his voice actor. Personally, I like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but when I read comics and Deadpool's there, I usually hear Nolan North's voice in my head. Anyway, on to the next one. Much like Dr. Doom in the last video, this is a pick I've technically already covered in the first list. However, Carnage there was more of a passing mention among other symbiotes than an actual pick, and honestly, I've learned a lot more about Rivals as a game since that first video came out, so I'd say Carnage is a fair pick. Anyways, Carnage would be so much fun in a game like this. There's so many possibilities for a kit, and I could see the art team for Rivals absolutely cooking with him visually. And as far as designs go, personally, I'd love to see him either with the obvious traditional Carnage design, or something like his absolute Carnage design. I absolutely love the exposed spine look for him. It just looks so sick. Anyways, back to the kit. He'd be a DPS character who specializes in, well, causing carnage. His main attack would be a short-range slash with his arm blades, and maybe for his main ability it could be something like a tentacle grapple that he could use to either close distance or pull enemies closer to him. But the idea I had for Carnage isn't an ability, it's a gimmick. You see, I was thinking for a passive ability, he could have a Carnage meter. and the more damage he inflicts over a certain amount of time, the more the meter would go up. If the Carnage meter reached, say, about 25% full, he'd sprout more tentacles from his back, and that would automatically attack nearby enemies. And the higher the Carnage meter got, the more tentacles he'd have. However, if Carnage fails to inflict more damage after, say, 5 to 10 seconds, the meter would reset. See, there's a lot of things you'd have to do to iron out this gimmick to make it actually work in-game, but I figured something like this would be a cool way to reflect his sadistic nature. I also wanted to incorporate a Devil May Cry style meter into one of these concepts, so win-win? Okay, I'm gonna be real with you guys for a second. I'm shocked I didn't think of Omega Red for the other two videos. Like, he would have easily been someone I would have talked about on even the first wishlist. Like, I love this dude. He never came to mind. In fact, it wasn't until this comment made me realize that I haven't talked about him. And like, seriously, I'm a huge X-Men fan. And I'm sure you all realize I'm a huge Marvel vs. Capcom fan. And I associate Omega Red with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It's wild I haven't talked about him yet, but fortunately, I'm fixing that now. I'd envision him as a tank character with the gimmick of, well, if you know Omega Red, you've probably already guessed it, but it's lifesteal. His main attacks would be strikes from his tentacle arm things, which are pretty self-explanatory considering it's his entire thing. But make it where each successful hit heals Omega slightly. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then his main ability would essentially be a command grab with his tentacles, where he drains the enemy's health until either his own health bar is full again, or until it's interrupted by an enemy saving their teammate. Originally, I had that just as his main kit, but then I had an idea. I was thinking, for a passive, he could have a mechanic similar to Doctor Strange's Dark Magic meter to represent his death spores from the comics. He would build up death spores over a certain amount of time, and any enemy nearby when he releases them would receive poison damage. However, if Omega doesn't release the spores in time, he'll instead receive that same poison effect. I don't know, maybe it's too similar to Strange's gimmick, but I think it'd fit Omega well. I know, another X-Men character. Who saw that coming? Anyway, a little fun fact about this one. Originally, this spot was given to a Sentinel. In fact, Sentinel even made it into what I considered was the final version of the script. Until I wrote a joke about how they should use Bastion if the Sentinel's size would be an issue. And that got me thinking, and I realized I'd actually prefer Bastion to a straight-up Sentinel. Fortunately, most of the kit I envisioned for the Sentinel also works for Bastion. Although I did end up going through and tweaking a few ideas to make it more fitting for him, but other than that, we're still good. Bastion would be a tank character who specializes in what he does best: hating mutants. His main attacks would probably just be standard Sentinel weaponry, with most of it being centered around using laser beams. You could also throw in what would pretty much be a carbon copy of Sombra's hacks from Overwatch to reflect his technopathy. That being said, much like I did with Omega Red, the main idea I have for him is a passive ability, and this is something that carried over from the Sentinel kit idea I originally had. Make it so that if there's any mutants on the enemy team, he will deal extra damage to those characters specifically. You know, just kind of to reflect the whole Sentinel nature of him. Also, this is another ultimate steal from Overwatch, but make Bastion's ultimate just a complete steal of Ashe's ultimate from Overwatch, and instead of Bob, he summons in a Sentinel. You know, that way I technically get both characters represented. Yay! Oh, would you look at that? How did he get in here? Anyway, if you watch my Marvel vs. Capcom 4 concept video, you know I'm a huge fan of Death's Head. And I'll be real with you, I wanted to put him in this list, you know, since the first one. But I held back for your guys' sake. Like, because even I know I'm delusional when it comes to Death's Head, right? However, since we're now at the third list, and I'm running out of obvious characters to talk about, his time has finally come, baby, and so have I! Death's Head would be a DPS character through and through. His standard weapon would be the blaster attachment for his arm, but his main ability would be switching out the attachment for different weapons with different effects. Like, maybe one could be the mace or arm attachment he has, which would get rid of all, you know, ranged attack he has, but it would make his melee, you know, hurt more. Or maybe another attachment could be a flamethrower that deals obviously fire damage. It'd be like the Pyro from Team Fortress 2. But you know, fun stuff like that. Honestly, I'm just a sucker for Death's Head, and I would love him in anything. Like, put him in anything, I will be satisfied. Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here. Just for the record, I didn't include him just to do that line. Mostly. Jokes aside though, Gambit is sick. And like Omega Red, I'm kind of surprised I didn't think to do him in one of these before. Like, I saw several comments last list suggesting him, and I personally love Gambit, so better late than never, right? And yes, I know, I'm doing yet another X-Men character. Who saw that coming? But I will assure you, Gambit is the last X-Men character on this list, don't worry. Gambit would be a DPS character. His ranged attack would be his kinetically charged cards. It'd basically be Genji's primary fire. And for his main ability, I was thinking he could supercharge a card to use as a sticky bomb. And he could probably also have a melee ability using his bow staff. You know, stuff like that. But the main thought I had for Gambit, though, is his team-up abilities. Imagine Gambit supercharging the other characters. It just has so much potential. Like, he could supercharge Wolverine's claws, like in that one scene in, you know, X-Men 97. Or, he could supercharge Black Panther's kit to give his attacks a little bit more explosive damage. And obviously, if Rogue gets in at some point, they would need a team-up ability. That's just law. Yup, we're now officially back into Madman territory. I'm being completely unironic when I say I want Mephisto playable in this game. Is he possibly too powerful to be playable in a game like this? Yeah, definitely. Does it make any sense for Mephisto himself to be on the battlefield? Nope, not at all. However, much like 90% of the last list, this leads back to Fortnite, baby! You see, Mephisto is in Fortnite as an NPC with whom you can make a deal with to get different weapons or, you know, revive your whole team. And I think that's genuinely amazing. Not only that, the visual of Mephisto with a gun is hilarious and has completely inspired me to try and make this work somehow. So, here's my attempt. Mephisto would be a support character whose entire gimmick is making deals with his team. For his main attack, he could just have like a basic flame blast that would deal damage to the enemy team and probably heal your teammates, kind of like Loki's primary fire. But I want his main gimmick to be buffing himself or his teammates at the cost of something. For example, you can make a deal with a DPS teammate that decreases their max health bar for a damage buff between either the entire team or just for him and Mephisto. Or maybe you can make a deal with Mephisto that decreases your damage, but also decreases your respawn time, so you can get back in the fight a little bit quicker. You know, stuff like that. You see, I'm not at all confident in this kit. Like, this sounds pretty dumb, I'm not gonna lie, I'm self-aware. But, I don't know, something like that sounds like it'd be fun to use when playing with friends online. Anyway, the next is a highly requested one, and the last one, so I'll just get right to it. Yeah, Ghost Rider makes sense for rivals. Honestly, this entire list was super eye-opening because, seriously, how did I not put half of these guys in earlier? Well, better late than never. And little side tangent, how has the MCU gone this long without using Ghost Rider? And before someone says that Robbie Reyes was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yes he was. And he was arguably one of the best parts of that show. But I mean, like, why hasn't he been used in a huge way? But whatever, I'll save this talk for a different video. Back onto the topic of rivals. Before we talk about his kit, I'd like to talk about which Ghost Rider I'd like to see in. Personally, I love pretty much all of them, but it'd be between Johnny or Robbie for me. But if I'm being honest though, you could probably do both, since they're just different enough you can make them each unique. Anyway, with that being said, I'll talk Johnny for today, and if I do another list, I'll talk Robbie in that one. I was thinking Ghost Rider should be a tank character, with his Hellfire Chains being his primary attack. And just like with the Absorbing Man, I'm envisioning it as being like Brigitte's primary attack from Overwatch. His main ability would be his bike. I was thinking it'd obviously be used for mobility, but maybe give it a trail of Hellfire for area denial too. Kinda think like the Tron bikes, you know how they make the wall behind them? Something like that. As for an ultimate, I was thinking the Penance Stare would work best. Maybe make it where any enemy player that Ghost Rider is facing when the ultimate is activated becomes stunned. Honestly though, I'm not super confident on this one, so if anyone has a good idea for how to make the Penance Stare work as an ultimate, be sure to comment and let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. I might have enough ideas for one more character wishlist, but considering how Marvel Rivals releases in less than 3 months, if I do one more, it'll certainly be the last one I do before we move on to different Rivals videos. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you should subscribe. We are so incredibly close to hitting the 1K goal, and once we do, I'm going to start putting out more videos. I'm aiming to do at least one video a week, along with some streams in between. But yeah, as always, if you're looking to support the channel, you can now become a true supporter thanks to the membership. Members get exclusive content such as loyalty badges, some super cool emotes, early access to new videos, along with a shoutout at the end of every video, and some other cool bonuses. Or if you're in the need of some gaming energy, go pick up some poggers and use code YEROPOGGERS at checkout, or use the link in the description. Anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video, and don't forget, if I do one more of these Sauron and Globherman are locks, I am not joking, this is completely unironic.